The morning my husband forgot to end our video call was the morning my entire world shattered into a million pieces. But sitting here now, sipping coffee in my grandmother's penthouse, overlooking Central Park, I realize that moment was actually the beginning of everything good in my life. Let me take you back to that Tuesday morning in September. I had just finished a board meeting at my tech startup, Lumina Health. We were 3 weeks away from our IPO, and the company I had built from my tiny apartment 6 years ago was now valued at $15 million. I was exhausted but exhilarated. My husband had called me during my lunch break just to say he loved me and that he was proud of everything I had accomplished. "I'll see you at dinner, babe," he said with that charming smile that had won me over 8 years ago. "I'm grabbing lunch with Diana to go over the final IPO documents." Diana was my CFO and my best friend since college. She had been with me since day one, when Lumina Health was nothing but a dream and a business plan scribbled on napkins. I trusted her with my life. I trusted both of them with my life. "Tell her I said hi," I replied, blowing him a kiss through the screen. He smiled, nodded, and I thought he ended the call. But he didn't. His phone must have glitched, or maybe he just didn't tap the button properly. Either way, the call kept running, and I kept watching, initially confused, then curious, then horrified. My husband walked into what looked like a restaurant. I could hear the ambient noise, the clinking of glasses, the murmur of conversations. Then I heard her voice, Diana's voice. "Finally," she said, and I heard the unmistakable sound of a kiss. Not a friendly peck, a real kiss. The kind of kiss my husband used to give me. My blood ran cold. "I've been thinking about you all morning," my husband said, his voice low and intimate in a way I hadn't heard in months. "Just 3 more weeks," Diana replied. 3 more weeks and we'll have everything. The company, the money, each other. No more sneaking around. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just sat there, frozen, watching my phone screen show the ceiling of some restaurant, while the 2 people I trusted most in the world plotted to destroy me. "The documents are ready," my husband continued. "I've been practicing her signature for months. Once the IPO goes through and the shares transfer, we'll have full control. She'll never even know what happened until it's too late. And then we file for divorce. With the prenup she insisted on, she thinks she's protected, but she doesn't know about the clause I had my lawyer friend slip in. If the company fails or loses value due to her negligence within 2 years of marriage, I get half of everything." Diana laughed. That laugh I had heard 1,000 times at girls' nights, at office parties, at my own wedding, and with us controlling the shares, we can tank the stock whenever we want. "God, you're brilliant." "We're brilliant," he corrected her. "This was your idea, remember? The best idea I ever had was convincing her to hire me. 6 years of playing the loyal best friend, and now it's finally paying off." I ended the call. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. For a full 5 minutes, I just sat there in my office, staring at the wall, trying to process what I had just heard. My husband of 5 years was having an affair with my best friend of 12 years. They were planning to steal my company. They had been planning this for years. The old me would have cried. The old me would have confronted them immediately, screaming and crying and giving them exactly what they wanted, an emotional breakdown they could use against me. But I wasn't the old me anymore. I had built a $15 million company from nothing. I had negotiated with venture capitalists, faced down hostile board members, and survived a pandemic that nearly destroyed everything I had worked for. If they wanted to play games, I would play games, and I would win. The first thing I did was call my grandmother. Grammy wasn't just my grandmother. She was Margaret Chen, the woman who had built a real estate empire worth over $2 billion. She had taught me everything I knew about business, about strength, about never letting anyone see you bleed. "Olivia? What's wrong?" She knew immediately. Grammy always knew. I told her everything. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Those pathetic little parasites," Grammy finally said, her voice cold as ice. "They have no idea who they're dealing with, do they?" "No, Grammy, they don't." "Good. Let's keep it that way. I'm calling my lawyers. We're going to bury them so deep they'll never see sunlight again." That night, I went home and smiled at my husband like nothing had happened. I kissed him on the cheek, asked him about his day, listened to him lie about his lunch with Diana being just boring business stuff. "You work so hard," I said, running my fingers through his hair. "I don't know what I'd do without you." He looked at me with those eyes I used to love, and I saw nothing but contempt hidden behind a mask of affection. How had I never seen it before? "I'm just supporting my brilliant wife," he said. "Everything I do is for us." For 3 weeks, I played the perfect, oblivious wife. I went to work, smiled at Diana, thanked her for her dedication to the company. I came home, cooked dinner for my husband, pretended not to notice when he stepped out to take work calls that lasted an hour. Meanwhile, Grammy's team was working overtime. Her lawyers discovered that my husband had indeed modified our prenup, but he had done it sloppily. The changes were legally questionable at best, fraudulent at worst. Her private investigators documented every meeting between my husband and Diana, every kiss, every hotel visit. Her financial experts traced the documents my husband had been preparing and found clear evidence of forgery. But we weren't ready to strike yet. Grammy taught me long ago that revenge is a dish best served cold, and with impeccable timing, the IPO was scheduled for a Friday. On the Wednesday before, I called an emergency board meeting. "I have some concerns about our financial documentation," I announced, watching Diana's face carefully. She didn't flinch. She was good. I had to give her that. "What kind of concerns?" Diana asked, her voice steady. "I've noticed some irregularities in the share transfer documents. Nothing major, probably just clerical errors. But given the IPO, I want to make sure everything is perfect. I'm bringing in an outside auditor." For just a fraction of a second, I saw panic flash in Diana's eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by professional concern. "Of course," she said. "Whatever you think is best." That night, my husband was unusually attentive. He brought me flowers, cooked my favorite meal, told me how much he loved me. "Are you okay?" I asked, playing concerned wife. "You seem stressed." "Just worried about the IPO," he said. "It's a big deal. I want everything to go perfectly for you." "For us," I corrected him, echoing his own words from 3 weeks ago. He smiled, but I could see the fear behind it. The next morning, Thursday, I implemented the next phase of our plan. I called Diana into my office and closed the door. "I need to tell you something," I said, making my voice small and vulnerable. "I think my husband is cheating on me." Diana's performance was Oscar-worthy. Her eyes widened, her mouth dropped open. She reached across my desk to grab my hands. "Oh my God, Olivia. What? Are you sure?" "I found some texts on his phone. I don't know who the woman is, but it's been going on for months, maybe years." "That bastard," Diana said, squeezing my hands. "After everything you've done for him. I'm so sorry, sweetie. Whatever you need, I'm here for you." "I knew I could count on you," I said, looking into her lying eyes. "You've always been my best friend." That night, I told my husband I needed to visit my grandmother to discuss some family trust issues related to the IPO. I would be gone for one night, returning Friday morning just in time for the big day. "Are you sure you should leave right now?" he asked, barely concealing his excitement. Grammy insisted. "You know how she is about legal matters." "Of course. Give her my love." I kissed him goodbye, grabbed my overnight bag, and drove to Grammy's penthouse in Manhattan. But I didn't stay there. Instead, I doubled back, parked 3 blocks from my own house, and waited. At 9:30 that night, Diana's car pulled into my driveway. I watched through the camera app on my phone, connected to the security system my husband didn't know I had upgraded last month, as Diana walked into my house, into my husband's arms, into my bedroom. I recorded everything. At 6 in the morning, I walked into my own house. My husband and Diana were still asleep in my bed, tangled together in my sheets. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood in the doorway and cleared my throat. My husband's eyes flew open. For a moment, he looked confused. Then he saw me, saw Diana next to him, and his face went completely white. "Olivia," he stammered. "This isn't... we weren't..." "Save it," I said calmly. I've known for 3 weeks. I know about the affair. I know about the forged documents. I know about your plan to steal my company." Diana sat up, clutching my sheets to her chest. "Olivia, please, let us explain." "There's nothing to explain. You've both been lying to me for years. You thought I was stupid, that I wouldn't notice, that you could just take everything I've worked for and walk away." I pulled out my phone and held it up. "But you made one mistake. Actually, you made several mistakes. First, you underestimated me. Second, you underestimated my grandmother. And third, you forgot that my husband, my soon-to-be ex-husband, never properly ended that video call 3 weeks ago." My husband's face went from white to gray. "I heard everything," I continued. "The affair, the forged documents, the plan to tank my company's stock. I have it all recorded. I also have footage from every hotel you visited, every restaurant you kissed in, every lie you told." I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a nice smile. "The IPO is still happening today, but not the way you planned. My grandmother's lawyers have been working with the SEC for the past 2 weeks. Those forged documents, they're evidence of securities fraud. The prenup modifications? Fraud and forgery. The affair? Well, that's just the icing on the cake." Right on cue, there was a knock at the door. I walked over and opened it to reveal 2 FBI agents and 3 SEC investigators. "That's him," I said, pointing to my husband. "And that's his accomplice." The next few hours were chaos. My husband and Diana were taken in for questioning. My lawyers served divorce papers before noon. The IPO went forward as planned, but with a very different outcome than my husband had anticipated. Instead of him controlling my shares, I watched from the trading floor as Lumina Health's stock price soared 20% above projections. My company was now worth $18 million. And my husband? He was in an interrogation room, facing charges of securities, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Grammy's lawyers were ruthless. They found evidence that Diana had been siphoning small amounts from the company for years, building up a nest egg for herself and my husband. They discovered that my husband's lawyer friend who modified the prenup was actually Diana's cousin, and that he didn't even have a valid law license. The charges kept piling up: fraud, forgery, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit securities fraud, wire fraud. The list went on and on. My husband tried to plea bargain. He offered to testify against Diana in exchange for a reduced sentence. Diana did the same, trying to throw him under the bus. Watching them turn on each other was almost as satisfying as watching them get arrested. In the end, my husband was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Diana got 5. The fake lawyer got 3. But the karma didn't stop there. My husband's mother called me a week after the sentencing. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I swear I didn't know what he was planning. Please, Olivia, you have to believe me. I loved you like a daughter." I did believe her. My mother-in-law had always been kind to me, always defended me when my husband made snide comments, always treated me with genuine warmth. "I know you didn't know," I said. "This isn't your fault. I'm losing everything," she continued. "My son used my house as collateral for some of his schemes. The bank is foreclosing. I don't know what I'm going to do." This was the moment where I could have walked away. She was his mother, after all. She raised the man who tried to destroy me. But Grammy taught me that strength isn't about cruelty. It's about knowing when to be hard and when to be soft. "I'm going to help you," I said. "Not because of him, because of you." I paid off her mortgage. I set up a small trust fund to cover her living expenses. It wasn't much compared to what I had, but it meant she wouldn't lose her home, wouldn't have to suffer for her son's crimes. She cried even harder and thanked me over and over. I told her she didn't need to thank me. I told her I hoped we could stay in touch. As for Diana, her fall was spectacular and complete. Word spread through our industry like wildfire. No one would hire her. No one would even talk to her. She had gone from CFO of a successful startup to unemployable pariah in a matter of weeks. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she tried to start her own consulting business. It failed within months. She tried to move to another city and start over. Her reputation followed her. Last I heard, she was working as a bookkeeper for a small construction company, making a fraction of what she used to earn. But the most satisfying part? She had been pregnant. She found out 2 weeks after she was arrested. My husband's baby. She had been planning to reveal it after they got control of my company, using it as leverage to make sure he stayed with her. Instead, she had the baby alone, in disgrace, while the father was sitting in a federal prison cell. I heard she named him Marcus Jr. I felt a pang of sympathy for that child. None of this was his fault. So I did something that surprised everyone, including myself. I set up an anonymous trust fund for him, nothing extravagant, just enough to cover his education when he grows up. He didn't choose his parents. He shouldn't have to pay for their sins. Grammy thought I was crazy. After everything she did to you? It's not about her, I said. It's about who I want to be. Grammy smiled at that. You're a better person than I am, Olivia. I learned from the best. That was 6 months ago. Today, Lumina Health is thriving. We're expanding into 3 new markets, we've hired 100 new employees, and our stock price has doubled since the IPO. I was featured on the cover of Forbes last month, not for the scandal, but for my company's innovation in healthcare technology. I'm dating again, cautiously. His name is James. He's a pediatric surgeon with kind eyes and absolutely no interest in my money. On our 3rd date, he told me he didn't even know who I was until his sister showed him the Forbes article. I just thought you were the cute girl who ordered the same coffee as me, he said, shrugging. Grammy approves of him, which is the highest endorsement possible. As for my ex-husband, I got a letter from him last month. He wrote it from prison, 4 pages of apologies and excuses, and begging for forgiveness. He said he didn't know what he was thinking, that Diana manipulated him, that he still loved me. I read the whole thing. Then I tore it into pieces and threw it away. Some people might think that's cold, but I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean letting people back into your life. It means letting go of the anger so you can move forward. And I have moved forward. I've built something amazing. I've surrounded myself with people who genuinely love me. I've learned that strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about what you do after you've been hurt. My grandmother always says that the best revenge is living well. But I think the best revenge is simply refusing to let the people who hurt you define your future. They wanted to take everything from me. Instead, they lost everything themselves. They thought I was weak because I was kind. They thought I was naive because I trusted them. They thought they could outsmart me because I loved them. They were wrong. So if you're out there, watching this, and you've been betrayed by someone you loved, someone you trusted, I want you to know something. The pain you're feeling right now, it's real, and it's valid, and it's okay to feel it. But don't let it destroy you. Don't let them win. Take your time. Gather your strength. Make your plans. And when you're ready, strike with everything you have. Because the people who underestimate you, they have no idea what's coming. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, no matter what anyone tells you, you are stronger than you know. This is Olivia, signing off from Echo's Nook. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.